The world outside didn't calm down. It only grew louder. Days after their announcement, the couple's names occupied every corner of the internet. Television panels argued whether their confession was brave or reckless. Commentators dissected every line from the video, replaying their trembling hands, tearful eyes. The moment Yulong said, "This is not goodbye, this is survival," brands that once fought to associate with their image quietly began to retreat. Contracts were suspended. Fragrance company pulled its campaign entirely. The entertainment machine that once praised them as flawless now treated them as fragile. Their silence became the world's new obsession. In the apartment, curtains stayed drawn. Mie Mie deleted every social media app on her phone. She didn't want to see the headlines anymore. The fall of the perfect couple. Postpartum confession or PR strategy. The words made her skin crawl. Instead, she spent her days in the nursery, humming songs that had no melody, watching her baby's small hands reach for the light that filtered through the blinds. Yulong spent hours in the living room, barely moving. The city outside still glittered, but he had no interest in it. He used to love the sound of applause, but now every loud noise made him flinch. He couldn't sleep, not because the baby cried, but because his mind replayed the sound of camera shutters, the comments calling him too emotional, too weak. Night, unable to bear the walls closing in, he went out alone. The street was nearly empty, slick from a recent rain. He walked until his legs ached, ending up in front of the hospital where his child had been born. The lights were still on in the maternity ward. He watched them flicker, and for a moment, he remembered that first photo, the one that had started everything. He had smiled then because he thought love could protect them from the world. Now, he wasn't so sure. When he returned home at dawn, Mie Mie was awake. She sat by the window with the baby asleep in her arms. "I can't stop hearing their voices," he whispered. "Even in silence, they're still talking." He knelt beside her and said quietly, "Then let's make our own silence." They made a decision that morning. They turned off their phones for good. No statements, no clarifications, no apologies. Just absence. Days became weeks. Slowly, the noise began to fade. Fans who once demanded explanations started sending letters instead, handwritten, gentle, uncertain. Some spoke of their own struggles, their own exhaustion. A new hashtag began to rise, "Let them heal." What began as scandal turned into something else, a conversation that stretched far beyond celebrity. News outlet published an editorial, "What the Mie Mie incident teaches us about perfection." Another headline read, "Even stars bleed." For once, the tone shifted. It was no longer about gossip, it was about humanity. Inside their home, something fragile began to grow again. Mie Mie started writing. At first, it was only for herself, short diary entries scrawled on torn notebook paper. "He's quiet today. I think that's good." Baby smiled for the first time. It didn't matter that no one saw. Yulong began cycling at dawn, avoiding the crowds. He liked the rhythm of the wheels. The sound of air in his lungs, it made him feel alive again, even if only for moments. 3 months passed. The world had moved on to newer scandals, fresher dramas. But one morning, a photograph surfaced online, a blurry shot of Yulong, thin but smiling, pushing his bicycle through a quiet street. The caption read simply, "He looks peaceful." It spread like wildfire. People didn't mock this time. Shared it with a strange tenderness. Comments poured in, "He survived. I hope they were okay. Maybe fame isn't everything." And, without warning, Mie Mie returned to social media. Her post was just 4 words. "Healing takes time. We're still here." Within 24 hours, it became the most shared post in Asia. Journalists tried to reach her, she didn't reply. Psychologists called it a cultural turning point, the first time an idol couple had publicly admitted to burnout and vulnerability without destroying their careers. Quiet interview weeks later, one of their close friends broke the silence. "They're not the same people anymore," she said softly. "But maybe that's the point." Found something more real than fame. The apartment that once felt suffocating slowly filled with laughter again. Yulong learned to cook. Mie Mie began painting small canvases, blurry landscapes, soft colors. The baby learned to walk before the next spring. Now and then, the internet still buzzed with questions. Will they return? Will they act again? But the couple never answered. They didn't need to. On an early morning in March, Yu Long wrote a note and placed it by the window. "Oh, the world our pain. We only owe it our truth." Outside, the first light of dawn crept into the room. The baby stirred. Mie Mie smiled. I'd smile this time, not for the cameras. Not for the world, but for herself. Somewhere beyond that stillness, the internet continued to spin. Loud and endless, but for once, they were no longer part of it. Had finally learned what it meant to be free. In a world that demands perfection, sometimes the bravest act is simply to rest. The storm didn't end when their voices went silent, it only changed shape. The following week, outlets across Asia scrambled to reinterpret the couple's confession, twisting empathy into entertainment. Every clip, every tear, every breath from that 3-minute video became the center of endless analysis. It was replayed on morning shows, sliced into reaction videos, and quoted by psychologists who had never met them. The world had found a new obsession, the fragility of perfection. Inside their quiet apartment, the world felt 1,000 miles away. Curtains drawn, phones off. Time ceased to exist. Yu Long sat by the window each night, tracing the pattern of raindrops against the glass, while Mie Mie watched their baby sleep. The child's breathing was soft, rhythmic, a sound that both anchored them and broke them. For the first time since the announcement, they had no schedule, no manager calling, no camera waiting. Freedom. It turned out, felt terrifying. Days blurred together. Morning light, feedings, silence. Mie Mie began writing again, fragmented thoughts scribbled in a notebook she hid in the kitchen drawer. "I used to fear being forgotten," wrote one night. "Now I fear being seen." Yu Long, unable to sleep, wandered through their dim apartment, sometimes standing outside the nursery just to listen. He wasn't sure if he was guarding them or haunting himself. Outside, sympathy began to replace spectacle. A fan-led campaign called Let Them Heal spread like wildfire. Letters arrived by the hundreds, handwritten, uneven, honest. Some told stories of exhaustion, of quiet survival. A teacher wrote, "You showed us that it's okay to be tired." A young father confessed, "I thought I was weak. I know I'm human." For every cruel comment, there were 10 filled with kindness. Slowly, the noise softened. Mie Mie started taking walks again, always early, before dawn painted the streets gold. She wore oversized sunglasses, not to hide, but to create distance. The air was crisp, she could finally hear her own footsteps. Yu Long joined her sometimes, pushing the stroller, saying little. Words had become dangerous things, fragile, heavy, but the silence between them was no longer painful. 3 months passed. Then, one morning, the internet awoke to a single photograph. A passerby had captured Yu Long in the park, his bicycle by his side, smiling faintly under the winter sun. He looked thinner, quieter, but alive. The photo spread faster than any tabloid headline. "Looks peaceful," someone commented, and that phrase became the new headline of the day. For once, there was no ridicule, only a collective sigh of relief. Long after, Mie Mie returned to her social account. No filters, no sponsors. Just a plain white background and 4 words typed in lowercase. "Healing takes time, we're still here." It went viral instantly, shared millions of times within hours. Yet the tone was different this time, softer, reverent. People didn't demand explanations, they simply echoed her words. "We're still here" became a quiet anthem for those who'd broken under invisible weight. Behind the screens, their lives were still small and ordinary. Yu Long learned to cook breakfast, fumbling with burnt toast. Mie Mie painted tiny landscapes of sea and sky, the kind that no one would ever hang in a gallery. Baby laughed for the first time, a sharp sound that made them both cry. It wasn't a grand return, it was a resurrection whispered in the smallest details. When asked later in a rare magazine feature whether they planned to return to acting, Mie Mie smiled gently. "Maybe someday," she said. "But for now, we're learning how to be people again." Yu Long, sitting beside her, added quietly, "Fame gave us everything except the right to be ordinary. I think that's what we're taking back." Months that followed, a shift rippled through the industry. Publicists began adding mental health clauses into contracts. Celebrities spoke more openly about burnout. The couple had not intended to start a movement, yet they had. Their silence had done what all their performances could not. It made the world listen. On a cool evening nearly a year after the viral video, Long posted a short note on a private blog. It read, "We don't owe the world our pain. We only owe it our truth." He deleted the blog a day later. But screenshots spread quickly. Became a quote printed on posters, whispered in forums, and repeated in interviews whenever someone dared to be honest. Now, their apartment stands quiet again, filled not with tension but peace. The city hums outside, unaware that two people inside are slowly rebuilding their lives. Mie Mie watches the baby toddle across the floor, laughing as sunlight spills through the window. Long leans against the doorway, camera in hand. For the world this time, just for himself. He presses the shutter, capturing the ordinary moment that fame had once stolen. The world may still remember them as the couple who broke the internet, but to themselves, they're simply a family, breathing, healing, existing beyond the noise, and somewhere far beyond the roar of trending hashtags and endless headlines. The final truth lingers like a whisper. In a world that demands perfection, the most courageous act is not to shine, but to rest, to heal, and to stay.